Dylan Jones.
It's that time of year when optimism is high, predictions are flying, and everyone thinks this is the year. So today we're handing out some preseason superlatives. Who's the breakout star? The underrated hero, the guy most likely to be a future coach. We're previewing the 2025 season the fun way. Let's get into it. I'm Rajiv. He's Justin. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective. Woo-hoo! Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajiv and Justin, back together on a Sunday evening to talk about all things Wisconsin Badgers. On today's show, we're diving into a supercharged preview of the 2025 football season with a twist, superlative style. We're talking most improved players, breakout picks, hidden gems, and even a bar fight champion for good measure. No position group, no storyline is safe. We're covering it all. You can find our show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button, subscribe button, so you know when we make new content. A couple quick things to start off with. First of all, we have people who listen to this show, people who've commented on this show, fans, family, everybody who lives in Texas. I just want to say, our thoughts with everybody dealing with all the flooding in Texas. I know a lot of children were killed so sadly in that. So anyway, if you are someone who's in Texas, or if you know someone who's been a part of this stuff in Texas, our thoughts are with you. Two more things. One, Know Your Foe continues on. We did Alabama this past week. We may go out of order a little bit with some of those because I'm trying to arrange some interviews with folks. So you'll still see those drop every midweek, but they might come out a little bit out of order. Lastly, Justin, we have some news. A buddy of ours got engaged. Nick Osen,
yeah.
Nick Osen, 247 Sports. Obviously, you all know him. He's been on the show several times. Very good friend of the show. Congratulations to Nick and his fiance Vivian. That's great. Congratulations. Very excited for you. He posted that on social media this morning, so had to give a shout out. Raul Correa, currently watching from my aunt's place in Spain. Let's go.
We've gone international.
That's right. And I'm here, and I've got the USA soccer game on the side here. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, Justin, how are you? How was your weekend been? Happy 4th of July. Did you have some fireworks? What'd you do?
I did. I went out to Elkhart Lake here. It's honestly a gorgeous area. It was kind of hilarious because one of the barges that they had out there to put out fireworks apparently came untethered. So it was gradually moving towards the shore, and it started raining during. So you have this barge moving towards the land while everything's firing off all at once. And it's like, oh man, this is just going to turn into either like the most ridiculous thing ever, and there's going to be a fire started. Watch it just fire off, or who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, it was a good time. Had some drinks, went out to dinner with some friends. It's been a good week. I had this last week off. I did a staycation. I did not want to go anywhere. I did not want to be tired when I got back to work on Monday. So I just enjoyed time around the house, kind of got back into working out a little bit again. And enjoyed myself.
Staycations are really underrated. Underrated. Like
only time you actually get like refreshed.
Yeah, I oftentimes travel. I just got back from a trip to Alaska. I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go to Miami for a week for work, and I'm just like, but staycations are very rare, and they're awesome. So I've got a rooftop deck at my house in Las Vegas, and you can see all the fireworks from around the city up there, that's what I did. Had some friends over, grilled out some chicken and sausages and stuff. So Tyler Strieber says, what's your guys' day jobs? Just curious. That's a fair question. I run shopping centers, Tyler. So I've got 2 outlet malls that I run. And Justin is in some secret world of IT or something.
Yeah. No, I do tech support for engines. So nothing too crazy.
All right. So, and yes, Will Hannah, congrats, Nick. Love that. Congrats again to Nick. Raul Correa says, yes, prayers to the hill country. That's where I'm from, right between Austin and San Antonio. Yeah. If you, like I said, Texas, really, really sad what's going on in Texas right now. So our thoughts are with them. Okay. So this is going to be a little fun little show. We're going to talk through a long list of superlatives. Put your answers in the chat. I'm sure we're going to have all kinds of disagreements, which is fun, but it's a fun way to kind of preview the season. Like we're literally now less than 2 months away. We're about 7 weeks, I think, maybe away. Really, really getting close to the football season, which is fantastic. So we'll do this in a fun way. We're going to start off. Justin, you and I will trade off, kind of going back and forth to who starts. So we'll kick it off with most improved since last season. Justin, where are you on most improved?
Yeah, for this one, for me, there's numerous people that I had for it. I actually went offense and defense.
Okay.
So number one, Dylan Jones, and the other one is Tackett Curtis. Tackett Curtis, we saw him in the spring game, looks night and day compared to what we saw running around on the field last season. Looks much faster, looks healthy for the first time, and it showed in his instincts. Like I felt like for the first time, he felt comfortable in terms of his reads and wasn't overrunning things as much. So I'm looking forward to him really looking improved this year when we see him.
Yeah. Listen, I agree. Matthew Anderson says Jones and Brown, Austin Brown certainly, and of course Dylan Jones. I only did one. I did Tackett Curtis as well. Tackett Curtis is my guy because, and like nobody came in with the fanfare. I feel like a lot of people do, but he came in with some super fanfare, right? When we got Tackett Curtis from USC, we were like, holy crap, we got ourselves a serious star.
This is a starter and
exactly. And now when you look at him and his playing partner, Christian Allegro, you honestly look at it like, oh wow, this in the interior linebacker section there could be so dominant. Yeah. Completely agree. Most improved Tackett Curtis. But I hear you on Dylan Jones. And Austin Brown, I think, is a pretty good shout as well.
I think Austin Brown's going to show out this year. I think people that have been negative on him, I don't know where the dislike comes from. I actually think he looks very athletic from the little bit when I've actually focused on him. I do think he's a guy that's kind of been pushed around all over the place a little bit. So I think it's hard to get a grasp because he basically was a slot corner a lot. And I don't think that's necessarily the perfect fit for his skill set. I think he can do it. I just don't think that that's necessarily how you want to use him if you want to maximize him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair point to bring up. And look, all he's ever done is be better every year. That's all Austin Brown ever does. He just gets better every year. Greg Lincecum says the entire D line. Well, let's hope so, Greg, because we desperately need that. All right. This is a fun one here. I'll start this one. Most likely to start week one without being on anyone's radar today. So this is, just before the show, we were talking about this as being one of the hardest ones. Again, put your comments in the chat. So most likely to start week one without being on anyone's radar today.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There's a couple to go first.
I'm going Jamel Howard. Okay, like he is on no one's radar to start. Now, I'm not suggesting that Jamel Howard is good. Is like one of our best linemen, but remember, his size, his quickness is there, and you never know. Fall camp, we could just see, because first of all, this is going to be a rotational position. It's going to have a lot of guys playing, right? The Perkins of the world, all these guys, Barton, they're all going to play. But Howard is a guy that I feel like, and not only necessarily lining up on the first play, but I could see him getting considerable snaps this year, and certainly in game one as well, especially because we're playing Miami of Ohio, that no one's really thinking about. I feel like I almost forgot about him, and I put him in a list of recruits that I feel like I had wrong, because we just haven't seen him yet. And so I'm going Jamel Howard for this one.
Okay. I'm going to go. I have two guys again for this one, because I think there's two guys that nobody's really talking about that I think if they have really good camps could suddenly burst through. Lance Mason, Matthew Anderson has listed on there, I think is absolutely somebody who, if he has a really strong camp, could find his way in there, because I think from a receiving standpoint, he's probably the most polished. And the other one is Mr. Darian Dupree, because everyone's buried him at this point as being the third of the top guys. It sounds like in the spring he was starting to come on finally, and then he had the hamstring issue. I'm really curious to see if he can kind of build really quickly in the fall and start to spring up, because I do still think he's the most explosive of the backs.
Wait, you think anyone's really going to be surprised if he's lining up in the backfield on day one? Like, don't you expect him to?
I do, to an extent, because I think everyone's buried behind Jones. Like, it feels like Jones and Yakimelli is what everyone's talking about. I think everyone would agree he's got a role. Like, Dupree's going to play. But I think we'd be shocked if you see on the first down of the game, he's the guy lined up in the backfield.
Okay. All right. That's fair. We have another shout. Tyler Schubert said the tight end from Missouri State. Lance Mason, of course. Greg Lincecum says, whoever is playing left tackle, surprise first week starter. Well, that's a fair point.
Probably Bruner.
We're certainly going to know. We'll know a lot during camp as well. We're actually doing at that position. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Will Hannah says that would be wonderful if Howard was a starter. I would just like to see him play because I think he still has it. We've never replaced Keanu Benton, and I feel like there's a guy that might have that zero tech ability. We'll see.
I think there's a chance it's a surprise if he's even in the rotation. Not that,
agreed.
Which would be great, because if he can be a guy that starts stealing reps, and listen, there's a reason why we were all high on him coming out of high school. There's a lot of burst in size there that has potential to be a really strong interior piece. It's very unpolished, and with big guys like that, you always wonder how strong is the motor. And that really, with him, was the thing that we coming into the season had concerns about. Sounds like he got really serious, and the best part of this is the fact that he saw positive outcomes from the effort in spring football. It started to translate to him making plays. And what that does is will help him build confidence, and will also get him hopefully more locked in that, hey, this is working. I need to keep doing this because this is getting me to a place where I can be a strong piece of the rotation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. And you're right about the hard work and like that, putting in that effort, because if he does that, there's certainly the ceiling is quite high. Okay, Justin, highest NFL draft pick, but I'm going to give you a couple caveats. You can't use freshmen. You can't use freshmen because we haven't seen him play yet. And you can't use Kevin Haywood because he's not going to see the field this year. Outside of that, and I probably would have said Haywood, but we can't because he's not on the field this year. So who was your highest draft pick? No freshman and no Haywood.
Probably Emerson Mendel.
Okay.
Right. I think if I'm really looking at this group, I legitimately think he's got a chance as an interior guy to be a first round level type guy. I think he's got that level of athleticism and that level of just mauler to him. It's not common to have a guy with his build that's also as light on his feet as he is. And I think that's where I look at him, and it's like, man, this is a guy that has a chance to, like, everything's on the table for him. It's kind of like Haywood at tackle. Like, you just don't get guys that have that level of mobility with that type of size and aggression.
So yeah. I looked at it a little bit more as like of the people that are close to being drafted, like who might be eligible soon. So I went Riley Mahlman because I feel like Mahlman is one of these underrated.
If we're talking about this cycle, then he was the guy I was going to say.
Yeah, like I feel like he gets slept on a lot, and I think Mahlman is like he's a dominant right tackle. He's really, because again, you don't hear a lot from him because all he does is just beat his guy every game. He protects the front side very well for QBs. He's a good run blocker. And yeah, so I think Mahlman is a guy that we're going to see. You know, you look across the NFL, you see a bunch of linebackers who played for us. You see a bunch of linemen as well. And you're just all of a sudden they pop up and they stay in the league forever. I think Mahlman is going to be one of those guys. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you as far as some of the younger guys could be higher draft picks, but as of right now, I'm going that.
Greg Linscomb saying Vinny. My caveat or my pushback on Vinny would be, in some ways, Vinny is very similar to Chimere Dike in that I think he could run a good time, but I'm not sure that the physicals are going to necessarily put him in a huge spot. Like, he's not an overly physically imposing receiver. I think there is some speed there, but I wouldn't say he's super shifty or a guy who's like a top first round or second round type, like, receiving talent. I think he's a third or fourth guy if he has a really strong season, which is still really good, but it's hard to get up the board in the wide receivers. You have to be really, really talented. You have to be a difference maker at the NFL level to typically go in the first couple rounds. It's
a very difficult position, no doubt about that. This is a slightly better position to get drafted at because obviously there's a high need for it. Justin Tyler says Rico Hallman, I feel like needs to have a really big year. I mean, we saw after his 7-pick season, we saw a bit of a drop off last year, and I wouldn't say drop off, but certainly in the numbers, but he needs to come out and really show that he can be a lockdown, shutdown corner. If he does, then I think he can be one of these guys that's higher drafted. But I frankly, as of now, I don't see him being drafted higher than Mahlman for sure.
You know what? The one thing I will say about Rico is I just don't think the physical tools will be enough for him to get drafted high. I would be shocked if he's anything more than a 4.5 guy. And at that, I'm not necessarily sure that it's a low 4.5. I think he maximizes what he has, but I don't see a guy that's going to impress anybody at the combine with the numbers that he throws out. I do think he has a chance to be a nice slot corner in the NFL, but I think he's undersized to play on the perimeter.
Yeah. Tyler Schieber asks, what round is Malman, you think, Rajiv? Third? I would say third or fourth for Malman. I think he'll end up in the third or fourth round.
If he has a super strong season, is just dominant, he's got a chance to get into the second. I don't see him being first.
Look, you're always looking for people that have tackle ability like that. Like, it's so critical. Okay, Justin, most reliable when it's crunch time. I'll go first on this one. Most reliable when it's crunch time. I'm going Christian Allegro. This, to me, I feel like he is the most reliable player that we have on the roster right now, especially on the defense. I would say he is your most reliable guy. Certainly Zachman can be talking about, Brown, Rico, but Allegro to me just feels like when it matters, when it's the fourth down stop or it's the critical fourth quarter, third and long, whatever, like I want Allegro to make a play. And I feel like I think will be an all Big Ten player. I've said that many times this year. He's going to be first team all Big Ten in my opinion. And yeah, there's my guy.
I think it's going to be Vinny for me. I think Vinny has a chance to be a guy who can consistently make plays when we need them to be made this year. And especially having someone like Ballard on the opposite side that really draws attention, because I don't think you're going to want to slide coverage over on his side. If you start shading a safety on there and you're going to put a corner one-on-one with Ballard, that's insane. Because if he gets a good release, there aren't very many guys that are going to be able to run with him at his size.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that, boy, I tell you what, those weapons, they can really be, if we really could have a special group there, really good. Who's going to throw to those guys that you mentioned? Well, I feel like lots of people said, hope it's Billy. Badger Borman said, hope it's Billy. Yeah, I agree. I hope it's Billy Edwards. We just don't know yet. We just don't know.
The funny thing with Billy is that you look at it, we just don't know what his ceiling truly is because of how horrific everything was at Maryland last year. Like, that was a truly awful, like, we've talked about a bad ecosystem at Wisconsin. At least our offensive line play for the better part of the last 2 years has been fairly reliable. Like, his was just, like, you watch it. You look at the highlights on some of the throws he makes, he's getting hit every time he lets go of the football. Like, even when he's slinging it up down 30, 40 yards downfield, he's getting drilled.
Yeah. Look, so by the way, I'm going to be talking to a Maryland guy for Know Your Phone. I want to ask him a lot of this stuff about Billy Edwards. And that, like I said, that might not be this week. We might go a bit out of order. But USA up 1-0, by the way, already. Love
nice.
It. Okay. So and I have a couple. Tyler Schieber, I love this. Bertram's. Yeah, Bertram's. Most reliable. That's
the Mad Bomber.
I mean, last year.
Turnover machine.
Last year, we probably would have said that at some point, which is really sad. It's just not.
After the first few games, absolutely.
Gosh. Okay, Justin, this one's yours first. Most likely to lead the team in sacks.
It's tough. I'm probably going to go Allegro on this, but I don't feel super strongly because I just don't know who else. Like, this feels like it's going to be a group that potentially is loaded with 4 or 5 sack guys. Like, you have a bunch of guys that are productive, but nobody that I look at that's like truly like dominant. Mason Reiger is honestly the one that I think is, if he's actually healthy, that I look at and say, he is the guy who actually is refined enough that I could see him going out there and having 7-8 sacks. Like, I could see him being that guy. I just need to see him be healthy. Like, if he can make it through the season, I feel like he'd be a 7, 8, 9 sack guy. Like,
that's fair. So I wrote down Reiger. I do think Reiger or Cheeks. I kind of put Cheeks sort of in parentheses behind him. I think Cheeks could have a good year. Like, he really flashed at times last year. So I do think he could be the guy. But Reiger, you're right. Health is everything here. And I think most people in the chat agree as well. Matthew Anderson says Reiger. Justin Tyler said Fierbury. There you go. That's an interesting one. It's a fair shout. Reiger for sacks from Zach Bartz as well. Justin says Fierbury has an NFL body. Yeah,
he does. What we need to see with him is refinement, and that I feel like there's a lot of physical tools there. It's, can he be efficient with them? Having burst only works if it actually is being used effectively. Clayton's already instinctually as a pass rusher, I feel like, beyond Fierbury. But that's just because he's a super instinctual guy at that position. But I wouldn't trust him to stop the run to save his life at this point.
Tyler says, I'm all in on Clayton hype. He'll be used exclusively as a pass rusher probably, so I like his chances to sneakily lead in sacks, even though playing that time might not be a ton. Oh, well, I think Justin and I certainly agree that we would love to see Nick Clayton lead this team in sacks. I mean, Clayton has definitely just been Justin's guy for a while. Okay. All along the same lines, most likely to lead the team in tackles. I'll take this one first. So last year, Hunter Wooler led. Allegro was 2, Zachman was 3. It's hard not to go Allegro, but I'm going to go Zachman because I like Zachman. You know how much I've been a big Zachman fan for a long time. He's taking kind of the reins now. I think safeties is a group that doesn't get talked about a lot. But Brown and Zachman, that's quite the pairing back there. So I think Preston Zachman kind of taking over that Hunter role, being kind of that guy who center fielder sort of leads the defense from back there. I'm going Preston Zachman.
I'm going with Allegro.
It's
I
fair.
think it's going to be more front end dominant, especially with the bigger defensive line. I think we're going to be playing towards the line more. Less guys in the secondary running loose.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I wrote them both down, but I wanted to give a shout to Zachman as well. But yeah, I mean, Allegro is definitely the guy. Justin Tyler agrees. Allegro. Yeah, I mean, he's likely going to be that, which is perfectly fine, by the way. All right, here's another fun one here, Justin. Biggest mystery heading into fall camp. Where are you at on this one?
Who will be the leading receiver this season? I think it's Vinny, but I think there's at least a few different guys that we think could end up being that spot. Could be Tretch, could end up being Ballard if he ends up having a couple of games where he's just really explosive. So I think that there's a chance. I would be shocked if Vinny finishes anywhere lower than number 2 in receptions on the team, but I think yardage is straight up could be anybody. It could be Vinny, it could be Ballard, and it could be Tretch. Tretch is really going to come down to what is the yards per catch.
Fair. I can see that. I mean, obviously, look, like I said, the unit's going to be good, and hopefully there's someone that kind of breaks out there. I'm going the left tackle position. That's kind of my mystery going into fall camp. I feel like that's a bit of an obvious one. Fair. There's a couple good ones in the chat I'm going to get to. But yeah, I mean, at this point, we think it's Brunner, but it might not be. We might legitimately see what's his name, the transfer. I just lost it. Heinzen, yeah, Davis Heinzen. We might see him start, so it could be fine. By the way, sorry, I'm just getting over a little bit of cold, so if you hear me cough, I apologize for that. But yeah, that's to me the biggest mystery because it is a really critical part of what this team does and how successful it's going to be. Justin Tyler, just good comments today, Justin. Mystery Suggs, that's a good one. Like, here's a name that when JVR Suggs transferred in from LSU, here we were talking about our defensive line and how strong it was going to be, and we haven't heard a ton, to be fair, about Suggs. Go ahead.
I will say my thoughts on him are he's one of your third down interior guys. Like, I think he's going to be used as his strength is pass rush and being able to be disruptive in the middle. I don't think that he necessarily is a super polished run stopper. He will be really good in terms of the interior at being able to get into the backfield. And I think that that's important because I like some of the other guys, but I don't know if necessarily we can rely on them to actually get penetration consistently. Whereas I think Suggs is a guy that you can get that from.
Yeah. A couple other shouts in the chat. Greg Linscomb says, how many running backs will see carries this year? That's an interesting thing in fall camp. Will we actually see Yakimelli be a part of it? And then Tyler Shearer brings up Thomas Heiberger. We've heard a lot, seen virtually nothing due to injury. Would like to see him break out this year. There's someone who, that is a bit of a mystery and he's moved to the inside now. The inside depth chart isn't as deep as the outside. So I think that he might actually be able to get some good playing time there.
I think he's in a specialized position. Him and Witt seem to be the two guys at that overhang interior backer.
Yeah.
And so I kind of look at that like I'm really curious to see if that ends up being a spot where Mason Posa kind of gets thrown into because of his mobility and his ability his instincts. I really want to see Heiberger be healthy and be able to go here. The legs are really killing him right now. So I'm hopeful that he can finally have a year where he can get rolling here. And I realize he's still just a pup. Like, we're talking about him. It's his redshirt freshman year. and we're acting like, oh my God, injuries. And it's like,
he's got a long way to go.
yeah, no kidding.
Okay. Most likely to break out. So I'm going to say, I think that's my turn to go first on this one. I'm saying this is my Dylan Jones answer here. This is, for me, it's like, he seems like the guy that should. I almost wanted to go a different way, because when everyone says one thing, I like to go the other way. But I mean, Dylan Jones looks like the guy. Everywhere you look, he looks like he's going to be the starting back. Although he didn't really play a ton last year. He was kind of the third or fourth man in the rotation. Yakimelli is still there. But Dylan Jones just seems like the every down back, that bruiser type, that was that traditional prototypical Wisconsin running back who's going to have 1,000 yards. Seems like he's the guy. And if he does have 1,000 yards, clearly that's a breakout for him.
Justin Tyler on the same page as me with Jaden Ballard. I do think he breaks out. I wouldn't be shocked if he has 600 or 700 yards this year. I think it's going to be really boom bust. Like, I think he's going to have games where he has one catch for 20 yards, and then he has a game where he has 4 catches for 140. But I think he's a guy that's going to kind of be all over the place, but will really balance out the receiver position to help keep Vinny free this season.
I hear the Ballard stuff. I understand why you say that. Obviously, the physical tools are there. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to always be concerned of, well, we'll see, right? Like, he didn't make the field at Ohio State. I'm not saying he's not good enough to play here, because I think he is, and he certainly has the speed. I talked to an Ohio State guy earlier this week, and they're like, yeah, we want to see how he does there. He can absolutely fly, but it's just that in our loaded room, he never really found a way through, which is fair. I mean, we are talking about the national champions here, so I do get it.
There was talk that he was the second fastest receiver in their room behind what's his name? The one whose dad played for Indianapolis.
Oh, Harrison.
Him and Harrison were fighting. I think Harrison ran like a 4.3 at the combine, I believe. So he's a 4.4. They said they ran him at. I wouldn't be shocked if he's actually got another tick in him to get to a 4.3, because everything we've heard coming out is that, yeah, you make a mistake against him and you're just done. Like, you're not catching him. He's too big and fast.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I hope you're right, and I hope he is going to be that dude. Okay, Justin, most likely have a viral highlight. So, Sports Center, top 10, viral highlight. Who is it?
I actually think that this is where we get to Dupree. He is the one that I absolutely could see doing something freakish, especially with his balance, where he just bounces off somebody and then breaks one. But he's the guy that I think I'd be most shocked. Him or Tretch would be the two that I would probably look at and say, they do something that you're just like, they make somebody look stupid on.
So I put Tretch as one of mine, but my official answer is Deckel Crowdis. I feel like that's the highlight reel guy, right? He's done some. He is a super. You talk about fast 4.3, 4.4 guy. That's him. But I also wrote Tretch down because Tretch had a couple of viral highlights last year. Not really viral, but really good highlights. And I feel like in this offense, he's going to catch some 10-yard mesh in over the middle and then run around all over the field and score he's going to run 80 yards to score a touchdown or something. So yeah, but I'm going to go Deckel Crowdis because that guy just looks like an absolute freak of nature. Is he the best receiver? We don't know, but I could see a jet sweep, something crazy going on with Crowdis. Okay, next up, most underrated player on the roster. I will go first on this one. This is a tough one for me because, I obviously, I'm, as an optimistic fan, I kind of rate everybody at least a little bit. But I think Tucker Ashcraft, I have personally underrated him quite a bit. I'm very low on the tight end room. I've been very salty ever since Tanner Kozio left. I know that Lance Mason is coming in, but Tucker Ashcraft, everyone has said he's improved. People that have seen him have said that. I'm a little skeptical. But I do believe that because of how low production the tight end room has actually had recently, that he is very underrated. And no one's really talking about that. Everyone's kind of just focusing on the fact that we've got Jaden Ballard, as you mentioned, and Vinny Anthony and Tretch and Crowdis and all these receivers, that Tucker Ashcraft could be the one that's underrated.
I think I have the guy, and that's Aker. I think he's going to be used as a Swiss Army knife, and he's going to do a lot of dirty work this season. And people are going to look at it and be like, man, every time we needed a little play here or there, a big block, he made the play. And that's how I feel like this is going to go. Or leak out of the backfield for a 10-yard reception. He's absolutely got more juice than what you need at that spot. The guy they had at Kansas looked like he should be a beerback for some bar. And Aker looks like a freaking NFL fullback. So he legitimately, to me, looks like a guy who will absolutely kind of cause some problems being potentially not taken seriously enough by linebackers in the Big Ten. And he's a guy that probably runs a 4.6 that if you let him get in space, he'll run by you. Like we saw him do it a couple times already. He's run a couple of up routes where he's just gotten free and run for 20 yards. And he can continue to do that. And that's a piece where if you let him leak out and nobody's paying attention to him, he can be a problem.
I knew you were going to say this. I literally, I wrote down, I almost started to write his name. And I'm like, no, Justin is going to be all over this. You have been all over Aker the entire offseason. You think he's going to, I'm telling you, like, watch this guy. You're virtually not.
Position in this offense.
I know. I hope for you because let me tell you something.
I hope for him. Like, he's a kid that absolutely deserves it.
100%. But just for some brevity, every time Aker has a good game, you're going to hear Justin do some major crowing on Locked On Badgers reaction show. He is going to be ready. He is going to be fired up every time Jackson has a good game. And good for him. The man has stayed here the entire time. He's always been a hard worker and very excited for him in the new position. I agree with you. Badger Bournemouth. Plus he blocks hard. Yes, he's a great blocker. Very underrated thing that we don't talk about a lot anymore.
We talk NFL. He is a guy I absolutely think could find his way onto a roster somewhere as special team / just one of those guys that you let, like, he's going to be used as a fullback in the NFL and he's a plus athlete. Like, he's a good enough athlete that you can use him for other stuff. But when you need a guy who's going to be athletic and come in and block, he'll just bury people. Like, he can put somebody on their back in the NFL. He's a big dude. He's got to be like 240 plus by now.
Probably. Well, maybe.
He looked big when they showed the film of him in the offseason. He looked like a big dude.
All right. Hidden gem. The biggest hidden gem on this roster, Justin, is who?
I think it's going to end up being Perkins.
Okay.
I think by the time we end the season, he's not going to get the appreciation because I don't think the stats are going to be there. But I think he's going to be a guy that we look at the end of the season and go, man, he was just a monster in the middle. Like, he'll probably have 10 tackles for loss and like 3.5 sacks. But it's going to be enough that we're like, every time we needed him to amp up and make a play, he did something. And I think that's going to end up being a big deal for us this year.
I like this shot from Matthew Anderson, Jameer Latimer, who may end up being our starting corner. We'll have to see.
He's probably the slot. Like somebody brought up Agard earlier. He's the guy I expect to be in the slot.
You think Latimer will start in the slot? Yeah. Do you think Agard's on the outside if Forker isn't there?
I think he's probably back up to the outside. He's like in the 2 deep on for the perimeter.
Will Hanna, Aker is my hidden gem. Good. You guys are all over Aker. Okay. So my hidden gem on this team, speaking of blocking, we talk about blocking with Aker. Grant Steck. Grant Steck to me is a hidden gem. This dude can block anything. I feel like he is a really, really good weapon, setting the edge in blocking schemes for sure, and a threat receiving. Doesn't have a ton of he's not like your traditional, he's not like an Ashcraft style, a tight end where like a Koziel would have been, but he is a blocking machine and can be a very effective, large, he's 6'6", 255. What a weapon. I think
Grant Steck, big tight end that Detroit took from Iowa. I can't think of his name.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I think he reminds me kind of him. Like, he's super tall. He moves well, but doesn't necessarily look like a guy who's like this superstar athlete. But like every time you look at him, he's just like got a step or two on a guy and can do stuff. That's what Steck kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, couple shots for Hilton. Yeah, obviously I thought about putting Hilton or Posa, but those to me are hidden gems because I've been talking about them. Like, I'd love those two guys that are in this class. But I think they're both going to be stars. But so for me, I was more like, who's kind of like that hidden guy that no one's really talking about for me? That's Grant Steck. Okay. This has been fun. This is a good one. All right. Most slept on position group. I think this is me. I'm going safeties. I feel like people don't talk about safeties. We've been focusing so much on wide receivers and running backs and defensive line and Austin Brown and Preston Zachman, young trainer. They're just hanging out back there being like, hey, we're going to dominate. And they're just not being talked about. Even nationally, I've read the various national previews, things like that. Yeah, I mean, there's people say that they're experienced, but no one's really talking about this group and how good they can really be. And given the fact that we expect our D line to be better this year, we expect more pressure on the quarterbacks. That makes their job even easier, and they can actually make plays from the back. So I'm going safeties.
I would agree it's safeties. I actually am going to say, though, I'll say defensive line because I actually believe in the bodies that they got in there. I think there's a lot of people who still think that the defensive, it's just stuck in their head, and they just don't see any possible way that the defensive line will somehow be better with the guys that we brought in. I think it will be. I think we will see listen, we might not go to good or great, but we might get to the point where we're average or slightly above average. And if that's the case, that's a significant step up from what we saw last year, because last year wasn't remotely close to average.
Yeah, for sure. The other room that I think you could talk about here is the tight end room. Zach Bartz mentions this. With this offense, I feel they have a chance to break out. Plus, some of the additions they made could put them back on the map. Yeah, I mean, I can see this being a slept-on position group. I just don't know who that's going to be. And I don't know. I mean, I did say Ashcraft is underrated. I think he is. So I think you're right in the sense that we should see them perhaps some good production, especially in this offense. But I'm still a little bit, I'm going to need to see it before I can believe it. Greg Linscomb, special teams, including coverage units. Okay. I mean,
kickers have a strong camp.
I mean, here's the thing about special teams that gets, we're none of us are sleeping on Atticus Bertram's. We all know how good he is, but kicking is what when you think special teams, I know coverage is super important, obviously, but we don't have a dominant kicker. And when you don't have a dominant kicker, you immediately, like, your head tends to go away from special teams. And that's why I'm guilty of not focusing on them, because I'm concerned. I'm constantly concerned about whether or not we're going to make field goals. And it's something that we're going to have to do. But you're right about coverage teams. We have very good coverage units, and I think it's a very good shout. Okay. Next up, we have most likely to prove us all wrong. Justin, who do you have for this?
Oh, man. I think it's got to be Ben Barden.
Okay.
He's a guy that took as much crap as Neal did last year for being bad on the interior defensive line. Has done a lot of work in the offseason to put on weight and get stronger. And listen, I lit him up last year because of the fact that we talked about, he took it personally when people were saying the defensive line wasn't going to be good last year, and took some criticism in fall camp. And then promptly we watched the defensive line faceplant. So there's nobody I would like to see have a good season and go out on a high point than Ben Barden after what he had to endure last year.
I think that's a very good shout. Okay, so for me, it's a little different one. I think you're going to like it. Most likely to prove us all wrong. Definitely prove you wrong. Mike Tressel. I'm going Mike Tressel. Now, listen, I'm a big believer in what this defense is going to do, and I'm not saying I'm a huge Mike Tressel believer, but if anybody could, because listen, most Badger fans would have been perfectly content if we got an update on our phones that said Mike Tressel's been relieved of his duties. Right? Mm-hmm. Most Badger fans would have been like, okay, that's fine. But it didn't happen. And I think he's the guy that really could prove us wrong. He's got his third year in his defense. He's now sort of molded the players he wants, clearly got bigger on the defensive line, got a couple more pieces and got more athleticism. So I feel like maybe Mike Tressel can prove us wrong. I do like the Daryl Peterson shout. I saw a couple of those as well. Daryl Peterson is someone I almost wrote down, but I think Mike Tressel kind of holistically can take this one as if you can bring that defense back to life, if you can bring a little bit more, cohesion on that line and not getting pummeled in the face by Iowa, which will make me throw up again, that would be better. And Mike Tressel can prove us all wrong.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing was we find out was last year, just there was such a lack of talent that there just was no correct answer to fix what was going on. This is his prove it or be gone kind of season for him, in my opinion. Like if this defense is not good this year, he's got to go. So I'm open to him being good. I don't want to see him fail, because if he fails, that means that we've had a rough season. So in my opinion, I would love to see him have a great season. I would love to see tackles for loss, sacks to go through the roof. I'd love to see turnovers come flooding in and us to have a really strong defensive season, because that's going to give a lot of opportunities to the offense and take some pressure off them. where they feel like if things aren't perfect on a drive, they can have some room for error where they get to come back in and kind of make things happen. And hopefully as a whole, it makes us stronger.
Hooger agrees, says Tress has proven he can play against top teams. Why I think he wasn't fired when Longo was. I trust him. Just parts of the defense need to be better, like D line. Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, you mentioned that it's like an prove it year for him, and it really is. And I hope that I don't hear that, well, he needs another year to find his players.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. He needs to do it now. Like the defense needs to be more effective. I'm not saying it needs to be great.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it needs to be Jim.
You need to be average. You can't be at the bottom of these. You need to be in like the 60s or 70s.
Correct. I mean, like we're no one's saying we're making the playoff. No one's saying we're going to have a playoff caliber defense. Not saying that. We're just saying we need to be improved, better, effective, not giving up, 300 and some odd yards on the ground to Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, just making look like a high school team. That can't happen. Because if that happens, that's it. We're done. We're complete, and we're done with a lot of things. All right, let's move on to most intriguing transfer. I think for me, this is pretty simple. It's Billy Edwards. I don't like. I was trying to think of a cuter answer than that, but this entire team rests on whether Billy Edwards can really be that guy. And I know there's some other options that you can look at defensively as well, but to me, man, this is it. Like everything, as goes Billy Edwards, so goes this team. You talked about his time at Maryland last year and how effective he was at times, given the ecosystem was bad. I expect him to be really good. I think everything we've heard from, him and Jeff Grimes and like the way that they're working together and everything looks like it's trending up. It's someone that we talk about a lot, but everything rests on this man's shoulders.
Yeah, I think for me, just to be a little contrarian here, I'm going to go Fearbury. I see Hooger has it in there. And what I would say there is you have a guy that is an all-conference type athlete. We need to find out if he's an all-conference type football player. I think that's what you need to see with him. Can he put together the skill that's required to go along with the physical tools to allow him to be a guy who's potentially a dominant player? I've heard people say the way they used him at Kentucky really kind of messed with him. Well, he's going to be turned loose like a pit bull here. Like you get your opportunity to go out there and attack. Now is the time to go out there and do it.
A couple good shouts in the chats as well. Reiger is another one I've seen. Heinzen. So Tyler Schubert said Heinzen. I think that either of those guys would be good. There's always going to be someone that surprises us. Mm-hmm. It's a transfer, and we don't know who that's going to be. And I'm hoping that someone comes out and is all of a sudden your all conference type of a transfer, which would be great. Okay, we've got 5 more to go. We got some fun ones coming up as well. First of all, most important freshman. So most important freshman. I'm thinking I know where you're going with this, Justin, but what would you say is your most important freshman?
Man, it's got to be Clayton. Because if he is what I think he is, it's like a more physically talented version of Herbig. Herbig, who didn't necessarily get home a lot his freshman year when he played, but you have a guy that's got at least 2 inches in height. Like I know Herbig was listed at 6'2". He's probably closer to 6'1". He's a pretty small guy out there. Clayton has the same level of speed and explosiveness, but is a guy who's a legit 6'4". And now he's already 235. He is probably going to be pushing 240 by the time the season starts. So, I mean, it's really hard not to see him be the guy that potentially could do it. Because I think from his physical tool standpoint, he's a guy that I think even seasoned tackles are going to struggle with because of his quickness. And what that does is creates false steps, which gives him opportunities to just blow by guys.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really to add. 100% agree with you. It's Nick Clayton. It's not close. I think that Posa's a shout. And yes, Posa's important.
Came in the spring, it might be.
And here's the thing about Posa. He's not as important right now because look at who we have there. We've got Allegro. We have Curtis. Like, he's important for our future, no doubt about it. But, like, if Clayton can be effective now, that's a good one. Just a random side question. We'll cover. Alien Space asked this. Who's the most underrated freshman? What do you think about that, Justin? Underrated freshman.
I'll
let you think, and I'm going to answer mine. I'm going to go Luke Emmerich. I feel like Luke Emmerich is one of these guys that
I think you can go either one of the safeties for that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like Emmerich is very intriguing to me. Like, I'm not saying he's going to get a ton of time out there, but played well in the spring. Every time you saw notes come out from Osen and these guys, like, oh yeah, Emmerich is looking to shine. Emmerich's doing well back there in the defensive backfield. I think Luke Emmerich is very underrated and could end up being a real player on this team.
Well, we know what happened to him, Drayden Pavey would probably be my guy. There has been no clarity on that one yet. I did check and see that he does not appear to be enrolled, which probably means he's not going to be playing this year. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he's a guy that I actually thought had a really high ceiling. I thought his senior film was excellent. Catalano is probably another one that's underrated. I think he's got a very high upside, but I mean, he's already pushing the two deep. It's hard to say that a guy is underrated when he's already pushing for playing time.
Exactly.
Akpono is probably a guy. I think because he's more of a specialized skill, people probably won't give him the credit that's due if they're going to be looking for a guy who's going to pick up sacks. But I think he's just going to be a tree stump in the middle.
Most likely to lose their job or spot by week 4, Justin. Now I put job or spot because a job, it could be a coach, it could be a player. What do you think about this one? Or actually, I think it's my turn to go first. I hate to say this because I just feel like every year I give this guy crap and every year he keeps playing, but I'm going Daryl Peterson. I just feel like I just don't understand why I'm sorry. Daryl Peterson.
I get it, man. I totally get it.
I just feel like when I look at him, I'm like, someone's going to pass him on the depth chart, right? Someone's going to eclipse that. So for me, because I think he's going to start just because he's got experience. And listen, to be fair, people said he took steps. People said he looks better. I don't want to rag on the guy. I really don't. I root for him. I want him to be great. I hope he is amazing, but I'm going Daryl Peterson for this answer, Justin.
I think a lot of it depends on what the offensive line depth is. I think it could be Kerry Kadenko. I think right now he's probably slotted at right guard. If Mandel gets out, if Mandel isn't starting somewhere else, I think he's taking that spot at some point during the season. Like the physical level of talent that the kid has is off the charts. Like if he was healthy in the spring, he probably would have already locked down the starting position. He was a little dinged up, but I absolutely would have thought that he would be out there going in. And right now, I think that still could play out. Like we might end up finding out that he's the starter coming into the season, but we'll see. I don't think he's necessarily listed there right now on the 2D.
A shout here. I hope Nessa's very wrong. He says Tretch. I don't want that to happen. I think Tretch is going to have a very good year.
Yeah, I think they're very high on him.
Yeah. I think Tretch is really, I think this is, and I almost put him as my breakout because although he's not really breaking out, I feel like I've said before, I think Tretch absolutely could be our leading receiver this year. Catches, like yards, everything. I think he really, maybe not yards because he's not a lot of deep stuff, but I think he could have a really big season.
The fact Jesse Temple talked about him when he went into the portal on a recent episode of the camp, and he was saying that they talked him into coming back so Grimes could talk to him because Grimes wanted him to come back. That tells me that he sees him as a focal point of the offense. Like he pulled him out of the portal to get him to come back and meet with him so he could tell him how he plans on using him. Tells me that they didn't want him going anywhere, which is telling to me in terms of what Grimes has kind of got in his head in terms of what he sees from him as a player.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Best name on the roster. Best name on the roster. Who is it, Justin?
Oh, man. Atticus Bertram.
Atticus Bertram. That's a good one. Yeah. Atticus is a good one. I know a lot of people like that one.
Makes all of us think of To Kill a Mockingbird.
I feel like Sebastian Cheeks. I mean, what a great name, dude. Sebastian Cheeks. Like, that's the best name I've ever heard. I love that name. First of all, I like the name Sebastian, and Cheeks is your last name. That's so cool. Yeah, so that's where I'm going with it. Catalano, Xavier Akponu, Cheeks or Clubberly. So those are some names, some from the comments. Okay. Closing it out, the last two here, Justin. This has been a fun show. Who would you want beside you in a bar fight? Who would you want beside you in a bar fight? So for me, excuse me again, Emerson Mandel, Joe Brunner. Those are the two names I wrote down.
That seems probably.
That they are absolute monsters. Emerson Mandel just looks like a guy that I'm not going to mess with that guy. So if he's on my side at a bar, if I'm looking at the entire team, I'm thinking, Emerson Mandel, you're my guy.
I would probably go Brunner because I've heard things. I've heard that he's a handful and that he's kind of surly. So yeah, it would probably be him. I think Mandel is there. It wouldn't be Reiger. Reiger has too many religious quotes and stuff like that are popping up on his Instagram. It'd be really hard for me to look at that and be like, really? You have all these super positive quotes and stuff like that, and then you come out and you're getting into bar fights? I guess it could happen, but
I'm surprised you didn't say this guy. I'm sorry, Jackson Aker. Like you and Jackson Aker. Like I feel like that's your dynamic
to have that type of mentality. Like he seems like a nice dude. I'm sure he's tough. Like I don't get me wrong. I think he's a tough dude. I just don't think it's like I'm ready to throw hands kind of guy. Like
that's fair. I mean, we obviously don't.
There's a certain type of crazy you have to be a dude that's like sitting there like, you know, the guy is breaking a bottle over his own head and like ready to go. I feel like that just screams offensive lineman.
I agree, which is why I went Mandel. But I will give Reiger. I think Reiger's a fair shout, though. I think that's. I mean, the dude never quits.
Well, he's put together. Don't get me wrong. Like, and he's super athletic. My question would be: Is he a fighter?
Yeah, fair. Okay, last one, Justin. Most likely to become a future coach. I had to think about this one for a while because I think about like players that become coaches, and I went with my guy Preston Zachman. He's a very heady player. Not the most athletically gifted guy out there, but yet he's managed to play for 4 years. And that shows effort, attitude, mentality, ability to learn, ability to pick things up, ability to follow instruction. Like I just feel like all the intangibles with Preston Zachman are there. So if I'm picking one guy to be a coach, I'm going Preston Zachman.
I think there's a few guys that you could possibly look at with that. It would not shock me to see Billy Edwards end up being like a coach. To be honest, I don't think any of the quarterbacks I would necessarily be shocked if that happened. I think Rico could be a guy that you end up looking at as a corner coach down the road. Safeties, I think, Zach is definitely a dude.
Your guy Aker again, Greg Linscomb.
Aker could be. I don't know how many places are going to do that position, but yeah, there's a few different guys. There's probably a few defensive linemen. I'm sure that probably would be if they come out of it. Really depends on personality, but I think you have quite a few guys. Peterson is a guy who is definitely is one of those dudes that will kind of do the dirty work and do it. Like that's the one thing we've heard about him is he's an absolute plus in terms of the in the locker room kind of guy in Peterson.
Yeah. That was good. We're going to go to another quick segment here, but that was a lot of fun. We went through, I think, almost 20 of those things. So over 250 of you watching us live, thanks for joining us today. And also go back and check out all the other superlatives that we hit today. In the last section here, Justin, before we close the show, I want to quickly talk about Elijah Gray, the newest member of Greg Gard's basketball team, and pretty much locked in at this point. I mean, he is, I feel like at this point, that's the end of the road. This was a guy that played at Fordham and then played at Temple. Furman or Fordham, I don't know. Temple was his last school there. We're going to play a backup for front court depth. He's 6'8", got some size on him. Justin, your initial thoughts on Elijah Gray?
I think that we needed desperately to get some more size on this team, and even though he's not a perfect fit for what we want to do, I think he's a nice pickup for the team. Especially if you can get a guy who's not going to have a poor attitude about the amount of time that he's expecting to get. Sometimes if you go younger, you have people that have expectations that aren't necessarily something that you can truly provide.
Yeah, I think we desperately needed it. I did a show with Ryan earlier this week. Go check that out on Locked On Badgers we kind of broke down his game a little bit and what we thought. I ultimately think that we number one, we needed it. We absolutely needed it. We had to have front court depth. I label him as a slightly more athletic version than Xavier Amos. And as Ryan disagrees with me on that, but that's my take. I like this move. I like the way he plays down low. Yes, he will get fouled a lot. Yes, he will draw fouls, but he will also commit fouls, and he does turn the ball over a little too much. 1.6 turnovers a game for a guy that plays 4 is not good. I mean, that's a game maker, someone who's constantly playing a couple of turnovers a game is fine, but not.
Can he play within the offensive flow? Because that was something that Amos really struggled with.
And I think that's one of the reasons when I look back at Amos's time, I mentioned this to Ryan, the consistency was not there for Amos. And that sort of like clouds my judgment of him because it never flowed. I think this will be better. And at the end of the day, we've got Winter and Rapp that are going to play up front. So the question is, can this guy just be an effective, come off the bench? Now, the one thing is he knows how to wall up and play some defense. So interior defense in the post, he can wall up and keep space. That is going to be very vital for us. So I'm really happy that we have a guy that can do that. Justin, final thoughts before we close today's show.
Yeah, this was a fun one. I really thought it's interesting to kind of dive into some of this stuff, and it seems like everyone else is really engaged. I like seeing you guys throw up comments. Remember, we're here for you guys. When we go live, we want to know what your guys' thoughts are on everything, so feel free to say something. We may not get to everything, but it's nice being able to see you guys kind of to add to the conversation.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, look out for another Know Your Foe this week. A little bit out of order, but we'll get all that done, and we're going to get through all of them, of course, before this season gets going. Again, our thoughts with all the people in Texas. Hope everyone is doing well down there. If I know, again, we have a lot of people that live in Texas that watch our show. So thank you very much to all of you guys.
To Badger Bournemouth, when does practice start? July 28th.
Yeah, we're only 22 days away. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Thanks for joining us, and as always, on Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.